Hello guys, how are you and welcome to my channel Shining Rohan. Today we are going to see the parts of the brain, but this is going to be the part 2. So let's get started. So this is the cerebrum. Today we are going to talk about the parts of cerebrum. First of all, the cerebrum is also divided into lobes. Mainly there are 4 lobes: the frontal lobe, the partial lobe, occipital lobe and the temporal lobe. So moving on to the first lobe, it is the frontal lobe. By the name you can guess its place. Yes, it is in the front of the cerebrum, or in other words it is the front part of the cerebrum. This frontal lobe functions are like your problem solving, ideas, creations, planning, like that. This all functions your frontal lobe controls. Moving on to the second lobe is this yellow color which is called the partial lobe. The partial lobe controls your muscle movement, your memory, and etc. like that. Moving on to the third lobe, which is way back at the cerebrum, or the back part of the cerebrum, we can say. It is the occipital lobe, which controls your visual process. And you might feel something like if you hit something over your head or in the back, you will be feeling like why my vision is somewhat like blurry sometimes, like that. Moving on to the last lobe, and but not the least, which is the fourth lobe of the cerebrum. It is the temporal lobe, which controls your listening, like that. So let's recap. We learned that there are 4 lobes or parts of the cerebrum. Those 4 parts are frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe and the temporal lobe. The first lobe, which is the frontal lobe, it is at the front of the cerebrum, and it also controls your behavior, ideas, creations, and like that etc. And the second lobe, or the second part of the cerebrum, partial lobe, which controls your muscle movement and your memory. And the third lobe, which is the occipital lobe, controls your visual process. And the last but not the least lobe, which is the fourth lobe, which is the temporal lobe, which controls your audio or your listening ability, and even your speech also. I forgot to mention that. Sorry. The temporal lobe also controls your speech and language too. So that's it for today's video. I will meet you in another video. Bye bye, and don't forget to subscribe my channel. If you do subscribe, hit the bell icon. Then you will receive my latest videos in your gadgets. So see you in another video. Bye bye.